I want to get a sense of the room really quick before I get going. How many of you have played with some image generation in AI? Raise your hand. Okay, almost everybody. What about Midjourney? How many people have played in Midjourney? Okay, cool. What about like Dolly? Okay, Stable Diffusion? Less. Okay, that's good. That's about right. Okay, what about Photoshop Firefly inside a... Okay, a lot more people have played with Photoshop. Okay, if you haven't messed with AI at all, boy, are you in the right place. Does that make some of you happy? Because I am not going to go over your head. I am going to look at like, hey, you know nothing. But if you have played with AI, you're also in the right place, because I'm going to talk about some workflows that I have been doing that have gotten some pretty good results for, right? And maybe some of you on LinkedIn have seen some of my stuff that is connected with me. So we're going to go through this. This image right here, by the way, as we get going, this was Midjourney, and I had to go through a couple different iterations. But what I did is I went into Photoshop, and I actually... That's a traditional Photoshop effect. Does that make sense that I did in the mirror and I replaced the image using Photoshop Firefly? I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that in today's presentation, that for those of us that are production professionals, which is most of us, do we use just one tool when we're doing things? No. So AI is going to be that same way. It's about understanding which tools have what strengths and when to use what. Man, this is like a reunion. This is awesome. Look at these awesome people in here that are just coming in. All right, I love it. All right, 1 o'clock. I've got a lot of things to get through. I think I have like maybe 50, 60 slides, and I'm going to try to get through and leave time for Q&A. So we'll go on. So here is a slide, right? Through the Looking Glass, which is the title. And if we read here, it's a metaphor for any time the world suddenly appears unfamiliar. Does that sound familiar? Right? Almost as if things were turned upside down, similar to looking out from the inside of a mirror to find a world both recognizable and yet turned inside out. I saw this quote and I said, this describes the world today, especially if you are a creative. And I know there's a lot of controversy around AI, and at the end we may talk a little bit about that, and I'm open to do it. My name, for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, is Jay Shu. It's, yep, just the letter J. Yep. And I am a professional storyteller. I have told stories and helped develop stories for a lot of different industries, most recently an AI creative consultant. Where I am right now, I'm working for a financial company, but I am their AI guy. I came on and I've done a deep dive in ChatGPT and some other things, so that's kind of where I've shifted. I was an animator, motion graphic artist, did interactive stuff for years and years and years, about 20 years, and I shifted to UX, right? And now in innovation and shifted there. I've spoken at South by Southwest a couple times, but my roots were in 2D animation, designer, motion graphics, and even before that, I actually painted with real media, like oils and watercolors and acrylics, right? So when you say, oh my God, that guy Jay's selling out to the robots. Not, man, I was there, it was you. It's about evolving, right? And again, that's maybe a conversation we can have. I have been very fortunate in my life to have worked with just a few of these companies. Some of them you may recognize. So I was busy over COVID, which was kind of cool. But I'm gonna start off with a quiz. So which of these pictures is AI? Call it out. It is actually B. It is actually B, right? So which of these is AI? It is A. A is actually AI. Which one is AI? Yeah, there you go. There you go. I thought so too, so I'm with you. Yeah, it is actually B, is AI. So which one is AI? It is B. You are correct. Very good. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. All right, and artificial intelligence 101. I am a professor. I've been teaching for over 23 years at Collin College. Some of you I have had the privilege of teaching, and you're now adults in your 30s, which makes me feel really freaking old. But that's okay. So I've also taught at SMU. I do the UX certification program there. Have been doing that for almost a decade. So the teacher in me has to say, let's start off with understanding what AI is, right? Okay, so I'm not going to read this, but we know that there's been a lot of development about AI. It's not slowing down. In fact, you know, the Scarlett Johansson thing that just popped up in controversy recently, we're going to have more of that. Eventually, there's this big legal issue around using people's voices, images, photographers, the legal is all over the place, which is great because it's going to keep all our lawyers really busy. You know, they're going to get to keep their jobs. But until the legal stuff gets worked out, my recommendation is be very, very careful about using AI for your professional work, because you could get into trouble if somebody comes down later on and says, hey, did you use AI in the development of this? So it's still, go at your own risk, I guess, is probably what I should say, right? So, but I have used it, but it's nothing that everybody can't tell it's AI, right? Okay, next. So definition, artificial intelligence, kind of simulating human intelligence. Kind of seems like there's something called the Turing effect, which if you watch Ex Machina, you get in there. I'm not going to go through that. Turing effect is basically, can machines fool you into thinking it's human? Right? That's what that Turing effect is from a scientist. However, I believe she pronounced her name, Fei-Fei Li, who is co-director at Stanford Institute, said, you know, artificial intelligence is not a substitute for human intelligence. It's a tool to amplify human creativity and ingenuity. I agree with this. Long time ago, I went to a school that was doing advertising and they were doing acrylics, right? And Photoshop just came out and everybody rebelled against Photoshop. For the filmmakers in here, everybody rebelled against digital, right? So we have a tendency when there's a stepping stone. Horse and buggy guys weren't happy about the Model T, right? And we saw how that worked out. So my 2 cents is, if you are fighting AI, you may find yourself a horse and buggy business, because AI is going to be a part of every single thing in our industry. To what level, what ethical considerations and other things do we need to think about? I don't like the idea of scraping from professional artists who are not getting paid and compensated or giving, you know, kudos to the hard work they do. But I'm also not going to sit by and not learn the tools, because eventually when that gets used, I want to be ready for that next wave. There are 2 kind of categories of AI, kind of narrow AI, which is what we're in now. And then there's that general AI, which is what we see in the movies, right? It's AI that, you know, is so human, it's like, oh my gosh, that's scary, right? We're not there yet, right? And I read a book that basically said people kind of think AI is like monkeys. They just create havoc sometimes. If you give them code and everything, they do their own thing. And she's one of the foremost neural network scientists on the planet, and she says AI is more like worms. They consume crap and produce crap, right? I mean, that's essentially, AI is not smart. It's just digging through data and jumbling it together and throwing crap out, right? And that's kind of what's happening right now. So I agree with that kind of assessment. Machine learning is another term that you will hear about. It's essentially having the algorithms learn from their own mistakes and kind of develop on their own. Again, we'll talk about if you want this deck, and I know I'm going fast, and people go, oh my gosh, you're going too fast. I'll make it available. I'll tell you how to get the deck at the end. Large language model, LLM, you guys may also hear these terms. This is where you kind of help train your model, right? You're going to skin there and you're going to say, how do I want this model to operate based on the data that I'm going to feed it? A lot of gaming companies, for the people I'm talking about, are using their internal artist work to develop their own LLMs, right? So they're not scraping from the web. They're saying our own internal artists that we're paying people for, we are developing art from their art So it's using their own art as a database. And I did have a story where one of the artists whose work was being used was crying because she could not believe how close it was to her art and she had nothing to do with it. So it's getting really good. Does that make sense? It was to the point that she could not tell that it wasn't something she worked on. That's how good it's getting, right? And then we get into these neural networks. The gaming guys have been doing this for decades, right? And it's just the rest of the world catching up to some of these terms. Again, so, as the rabbit in Alice in Wonderland said, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late, right? Some of us may be thinking that way when it comes to AI. How do I need to catch up? How do I need to get myself involved? What can I do? So I knew I was late, but when I get to the rabbit hole, I don't see how I can go in now, right? And maybe that's how some of you in this room feel, right? You know you're late, you know AI is coming, you know you need to do something, but you're not quite sure where to start or how to get involved or what to do. And so I wanted to do this. So we're going to talk a little bit about some AI tools. If you pay attention to LinkedIn or any of the things, there's a lot of tools out there. I mentioned a few at the beginning. Here's some of the tools I'm going to talk about today. It's Midjourney, a little bit of Dolly, Adobe Firefly, and something called Runway ML, which I think probably some of the other speakers this afternoon are going to do a deeper dive probably into some of those video things. So stick around for other good content this afternoon. All right, so Midjourney. Midjourney was the first generative AI that I got into. And they got me. I paid for a year. I wound up finding a project and got paid. I think I invested like 150, 160 bucks. I quickly finagled my way into a project and got paid like 800. So I made my money back, right, on my investment. And so I've just been doing it. But I have done deep dives to the point that I've run out of credits, right? That's something you can do. If you keep experimenting, you run out of credits, right? So that's something to be mindful about when you get into this. Dolly. Dolly is by OpenAI, who does ChatGPT, right? Just really got into Dolly 3. I just started really playing with it a little bit. It is close to Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and Dolly 3, which is this one. Dolly 2, I guess, is no longer available to the general public. They are some of the top 3 that people are using. Come on. Adobe Firefly is the one I think, because we're Adobe subscribers, it's inside of Photoshop. We're kind of playing with that the most. And Runway is the video AI that I've been playing with that I'll also talk about today, right? And I have the links in here. Again, if you want this presentation, I'll let you know a way at the end to get it. Okay, so Alice. Alice found herself in an interesting world where she met a lot of characters. And the question she's asking is whether you can make words mean so many things. And when we get into the world of AI and AI image generation, what we're really talking about is prompt engineering. And this is text image, text to video. There's there's video to video. There's image to video. There's all sorts of different models in which you can do an input and get something on the out. More often than not, all of them almost involve prompt engineering or text that you type in to help you figure out what you're going to get on the other side. So I want to start off pretty simple, and I want to say, okay, what if I do this prompt? Marbles on a white table. What am I going to get back? So I did that with Midjourney, Firefly, and Dolly. And this is the example that you see that I got back. Notice it took it literally, and especially Firefly, those are marbles, right? It said, oh, you want marble? And it even gave me, a lot of times in Midjourney, a marble table. And what I was envisioning was kind of a white table, white backgrounds, marbles. That's what I kind of wanted in my brain. So I went through and I kind of said, okay, what is Dolly telling me? Well, when you get into Dolly, you can click on a button that tells you the exact prompt in the corner, but I copied and pasted over on the left. So this is what Dolly outputted after my original one. And it allows you to understand how it thinks. right? So prompting is like learning a programming language. Every single image generator has different nuances about it and syntax and other things that you need to learn from. So you can't just learn one prompt engineering thing in Midjourney and then go, oh yeah, it'll work that same way in Firefly and everything else. No, right? Of course, that would be too easy, right? So what happens, sometimes it works out, and we'll get into that. So what I did is I did marbles on a white table. This is what the interface inside of Midjourney looks like. I'm going to jump out and actually show you Midjourney here in a second. But this is a screen grab. U1, U2, U3, U4 at the bottom. Those are about up-resing. So I get to decide, and it's kind of clockwise. 1, 2, well, I guess it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not, it's 1 on the left, 2 on the right, 3 on the left, 4 on the right, bottom, right? That's how you know. And you can also, V1, you can say, well, I like V1, so I want you to regenerate more things like V1, right? And that's what happens there. And when you're doing inside of Midjourney, you always do this prompt called imagine/imagine. We'll see that. So I did this in Firefly, and this is what the output of Firefly looks like. Again, I'm going to jump into Photoshop here in a little bit, and I'll actually show you some more things there. Here's Dolly. Dolly actually gave me the closest right off the bat. Once I kind of changed some parameters, I said transparent glass marbles with single color swirls on a plain white table with plain white background, depth of field, right? And that is how I was able to get something. And this is kind of in my mind what I was envisioning to happen. So then I took that prompt that worked really well in Dolly, and I said, okay, now that I have that, what am I going to get when I go back into Midjourney and type in that prompt? And that came out pretty nicely. Then taking that same, Photoshop is always a little wonky. I have a lot more, you guys have played with it, you get like bizarre crap that comes out of Photoshop, right, sometimes. But, we call that hallucinations, right? So, but, so I had to add mini transparent, because it was like giving me 1 or 2. So I did alter the prompt there. So this is an image that I did post on social media, and I think I showed the before and after. I'm going to open up Photoshop, talk a little bit about this later. But in my opinion, none of the generative AIs that I know about, I could be wrong, could produce this image by itself. Why? Complex, yes. What else? Text. I mean, sometimes you say stop sign, and what you get back doesn't look like stop sign, right? So the text itself, but also all the single elements. And this was a post that was on LinkedIn where this guy, a producer, film producer, hired some generative prompt engineers to come in and do some stuff for him. And he goes, I love it. I love that one thing. I just need you to change this little part in the corner. And what did they do? They reprompted it, because that's all they know how to do, because they don't know Photoshop. And it completely changed the image. He goes, no, dude, I want that image. Just change the shit in the corner. And they couldn't do it, because they not artists. They only know how to do prompt engineering. And every time you type in a new prompt, it's going to change the image. It's not going to keep what you want. So there's still that editing that occurs there. So she drank from a bottle called Drink Me, and then she grew tall. She ate from a plate called Taste Me, and then she shrank so small. And shows she changed while other folks never tried nothing at all. Right? My call to action for you guys is don't stand still. If you don't play with this, if you don't see what all the fuss is about, you will be left behind. And you will be sitting there going, why can I not get work? And it's because, well, we need people that are artists, but we also need people that know AI, because that is part of our workflow. And I can't think of a company that isn't thinking about that right now. So Midjourney. We're going to do a little deeper dive, and again, I'm going to open it up here in a second. Towards the end, I'm trying to get through some of these slides. Midjourney, there's a settings, right? These are some tips and tricks. You can do /settings once you get into Midjourney, and this brings up different settings. Depending on your paid model, you may or may not have access to all these different things, so just be mindful about that. --AR, right, generates aspect ratios. So we all know about aspect ratios, right? So it is a way for you to just put in, and on the left, that's exactly the prompt I did. I did /imagine Alice in Wonderland, Cheshire Cat with a very big smile, many sharp teeth sitting in a tree in a forest with rocks and mushrooms, --AR 16 by 9, right? And these are some of the results I got, okay? I want to say, okay, let's play with it. There is a chaos perimeter that you can do, --C, and you put a number, 0 to 100, and it's at the bottom of the prompt over there. This, I put it in at 50, and it kind of gave me more diversity in the images that I was looking at, right? Wanted to play with it at 100. What is it looking like there? Still kind of keeping in the same kind of genre and style, but adding some different things to it. When you go into Midjourney, you can also blend images. So you can upload your own images and say, I want you to take this image and blend it, right? And so you just upload it, and I took Alice, and I took the Cheshire Cat, and I blended the two together, and this is kind of what I got. So there's a lot of possibilities here. Does that make sense? As a creative, most of the professional creatives use this as inspiration. Does that make sense? We're not using it as the final output. We're saying, what would happen if I combine Felix the Cat and the Grinch, right? What would that look like, right? You know, so you know, those are different ideas. So now I basically said, okay, how can I do stylize? You can do --stylize, it outputs it. I said Alice in Wonderland, illustration of Tea Party, stylized 500, --AR 16 by 9. So it outputted this. Okay, in the top one, where's Alice? Right? I get the 2 bunnies, 3 bunnies. Alice is only in the last one. Hey, what happened to my Alice, right? Wasn't she at the tea party? Well, then you could do perspective, you could do worm's eye view of an empty table. That's not helping me. Look, my quote says, Alice in Wonderland, illustration of Tea Party, aerial view, stylized 500. What happened to my people? The actors take a break? What's going on there, right? So AI does that. It just deviates from the expected norm, which is why you have to spend a lot of time. I said, okay, Alice in Wonderland, illustration of Tea Party, Alice, Mad Hatter, and Bunny in suit, sitting at table, aerial view, stylized 500, --AR 16 by 9. This is what I get, right? So a lot of it is practice, practice, practice. A lot of it is playing, 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 and even when it's that clear, you would think, okay, so I tried it again, right? I tried and said, okay, how is this going to work? Hours and hours and hours and hours of figuring this stuff out. This is why they're saying prompt engineers are so valuable, because they have invested literally hundreds of hours to figure out how to make the thing do what it wants. The difference is that prompt engineers that are not traditional artists like myself can't do much except prompt engineer, right? And so that is an advantage people like you and I have. So I said, okay, what about rule of thirds, composition, foreground, midground, background? We have these aspects you can throw into it. Queen of Hearts at a banquet table, kind of spat some stuff out there. Wanted to play again with the foreground, midground, background. Came up with this mushroom kind of vibe. Really kind of cool, you know, a little bit. There's my, you know, Cheshire Cat. It's kind of the one that I liked. I did go in and I'm not going to open up the Photoshop for this, but I'll show you what I did. Is I essentially went in and selected this area down here, and I changed it up inside of Firefly, right? And did a couple iterations until I found something I liked. So, you know, you can select all sorts of different things and play, 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 play. So every adventure requires a first step, right? Attributed to the Cheshire Cat, but I found out from my research he really didn't say that. So Adobe Firefly. So some of you got it. you're like, hey, Jay, I think the one with the dewdrops is, not real. It's AI. Look on the left. What are we missing on the left image if you can see it? There's no dewdrops on the leaf, right? So what I'm going to do now is and I know I'm crazy, I'm ADD, whatever, So here is the image, the original image. So what I did, and let me deselect. What I did is I went in and I said, okay, let's do dewdrops. No, and all I did for my prompt was mini water droplets. That was my prompt. And what you do when you do that is it spits out different variations of dewdrops. This is in Photoshop. And I said, okay, that's the one that I like the most. That one doesn't look real at all. If I want to keep going, you can just hit generate, and it generates more and more and more and more and more, right? And that's how you can just go. All right, I want to now, because I promised I would, jump into, oh, you know what? I am not connected to the internet. Dang nabbit. Okay. So I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Eat Me, Drink Me. Okay. So here is the original image that I got out of Midjourney. Okay? Here are all the layers that I did to get the image that I wanted. Okay? So the first thing that I did was I said, what do I want to get rid of? And let me see if I can do. So a couple things when I looked at this image. What am I seeing that I don't like? All these roots coming down? That could be cool, but not for me. So I said, okay, so there's a brush inside of Photoshop that you can just remove. And it just got rid of this. That looks moldy. If I were Alice and it said, eat me, I would still not eat it, right? I love this bottle. I thought that's really cool. I like the vibe there. There was this, knife, okay? And there's this jar with crud in it. I didn't tell AI to do this at all. I just said, give me, a bottle and cake on a table in a cave. That was essentially my prompt. So I said, okay, what am I going to do? So I removed all these things just using the remove brush. And let me see, I think I'll show you guys kind of what that looks like. So I'm going to do Command J. I'm going to come in here, go over to the remove brush. There. Easy peasy. Does that make sense? So I just go in and go, boom. Right? And so I am now going in there and doing that. All right, real quick. You know what we need to do? Stop. I need everybody to stand up. It's hot as heck in here. All right, stand up. Wake up just a little bit. I'm doing okay. I'll try to get to the cool stuff here pretty good. All right, stretch. Everybody put your hands up. Move around, stretch. We're going to lose about 10 pounds being in this room today. That's going to be awesome. Everybody good? All right, let's sit back down. We got a few more minutes. We can do this. All right. So, everybody thinks that AI is just, going in there. After I went in, I would do just like I did with the leaves. You select a different area, and you just take AI to the different tables. So when I go here, here's some of the tables that it gave me. This is the one I chose. Do you think I said put old rag? No. Just did it, and I said, okay, cool. Right? So I just said, okay, yeah, cool, I dig it. So it put it in there, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go with that. Now, every time you see one of these layers, I want you to look at these keys. This is what it thought a gold key looked like. Yeah, I know. I'm going, what the hell? It's a key. You know, and that's the closest thing I got to looking like a key. So I had to go back to Midjourney and have Midjourney export a key for me, which I brought in and did old school, cut it out, put it on the table with Photoshop, right? And so then what happens is I do a couple more. I had to do the strings right here, so I made some strings, different kind of strings, and then I said, okay, you know, here's the different string elements. And I just kind of drew, and I said all these different strings to choose from, and then edit. And then when I did the tags, let me see if I can, oh, I need to turn off my main thing here. Oh, there we go. There are tags, this is my layers above. Yeah, I'd have to go, whatever, I should have named this better. Oh, Jay, come on, buddy. Anyways, the tags itself, I had to go in. I did have AI generate it, but the drink me, I had to just skew test, put that on. I cleaned up the cake to not look as moldy. But now, and it's hard to tell on here, I've got this really blue hue. So I went in and just did some traditional color correcting on my own. So when you see AI generated art, was there creativity in things on my side as an artist that I had to go in and tweak? Is that really any different than if we're taking images and compositing them right now in Photoshop? Not really. So people are getting really bent out of shape and saying, you're not a real freaking artist, dude. Okay, show me. You go ahead and put in all your prompt things and still come up with what I know how to do. So my theory is artists who have been traditionally trained to understand composition, light, shadows, all these things, your art is going to be better than people that just do prompt engineering, because they're not even going to understand depth of field or camera angles or aerial views and all those other things that are going to make it what it needs to be. So there are hallucinations. I talked about that, right? And this is basically when, you know, AI thinks it's doing a good job. You know, I think AI is like the really smart intern that you have to check all the time. That's kind of what I think AI is. Because you're like, hey, show me your work. Yeah, we gotta do some work on that, right? So here's what a claw hammer lying on a wood board with nails sticking out of the board looks like. Yeah, it's kind of cool for some D&D weapon, but you know, but I don't know about, you know. And so I went to Adobe Firefly, and Adobe Firefly actually came up with some better imagery, but it also came up with this.
It's bold.
Yeah, so you know, there are epic fails out of AI all the time. And depending on your model, you're using up money every time you generate. Right? So I'm wondering if there's a little bit of gaming going on in there. Right? You can control how much it goes wacky, but I mean, to get something for my thing I got paid for, I had to spend like, I don't know, 10 hours to export like 10 storyboards. So it's almost a board an hour, right, worth of things. This one was interesting because it came out with other things, but I went in and changed a whole bunch of attributes on this image. I may go in afterwards and show it if you want at the end. But this is kind of a quote that I said, if I had the world on my own, everything would be nonsense. Nothing would be what it is, because everything would be what it isn't, and contrary-wise, what is wouldn't be, and what it wouldn't be, it would, you see. This is my take on our life. This is post-COVID, right? This is the world today. Nothing what you see is potentially you can trust, right? And that's something. So Runway MI, or ML, sorry. There is a link at the beginning that I have there. Very easy. There's a free account you can get onto. You go on there and you can upload images and do other things there. What I thought I would do is some of you have seen some of the images and other things that I've done. I put together a trailer based on some of the images, and I put it together, and so these are exported out of MS. So quick teaser trailer. It's really not coming out 7:25. I just put that down. All right. Yeah. So anyways, let me see if I can go back. Come on. Ah, there we go. Use. Okay. So there we go. Let me go back here. So love this. I said roses, castle, mountains in the background. Was able to produce this. From a concepting art direction phase, I could totally generate this image and work with my DP or producer, another person, and say, this is the vibe I'm thinking, dude, right? And what do we need to do to punch it and make it our own and do all the other stuff? My main point going is nothing's impossible, right? We now live in a world where if you can think it, it is truly possible. What you need to know is the tools to make the specific things that you have in your mind be a reality. And I foresee a time in the near future where somebody like myself that's been an animator for 25 years could have an idea for a short animated story, and me and a few other people could produce, a 5-minute short within a month or two, as opposed to 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. So I think the ethics are absolutely a conversation we need to have. Does that make sense? Because if I can use AI to train on my own art that I create and feed it into the system that's based on my own stuff, I'm not stealing from anybody else, right? And that's just me doing my stuff, and it's uniquely me, right? That I now have a helper that can help me generate things faster based on my own creativity, my own thing, right? So I promised this at the beginning. If you want a copy of today's presentation, it is available. All you need to do is connect with me on LinkedIn. All right, yeah, so if you're already connected with me on LinkedIn, just shoot me a message and say, hey, and if you connect and say, Texas Production Expo, I will accept you as a friend. I'm always posting things on AI, future tech, all stuff. That's primarily what I post on LinkedIn. Every now and then you'll see one of my coffee picks that I do, but that's kind of the deal there.
So how do you think that went?
I think okay.
You think so, do you?
Well, yeah, I think they learned something.
Well, the guy in the black shirt looks confused and pissed off. That
What
guy. The one who's looking around to see if we are talking about him.
Oh, well, maybe we should give him time for questions.
Okay, if you think it will help.
All right.
So, how do you think that went?
There we go. So QA. So, and then epic Photoshop fail there on PowerPoint fail. Love Microsoft. So that is my talk, and ready for Q&A. So thank you all very much. All right. I'm going to stand up. Yes, go ahead. Questions? Yeah, sure. What? You're not even wearing the black shirt.
If you come up, what would happen if you actually come up with your totally original image of some inspiration about subterranean creatures underground, whatever, and could you use that and have that copyrighted as yours?
Yes.
Input it into AI and see what it does, animates,
So
other things that come up with that?
So here's the really gray part of everything. My understanding is that if you create something that is yours. It is legally copyrightable. If I use AI tools to animate it or do something else, it's still my image, right? Right now, Flash has been doing in-betweens, After Effects does in-betweens, all these things. The tricky part is how much of AI was used and to what purpose? And that's the thing nobody really quite has a definitive answer on, right? Because in the game industry right now, I know they're using AI for like visual effects, right? Like water, buildings crumbling down, that type of stuff. Technically, that's AI. Technically, it's non-copyrightable. Where's the police? Right.
There's an argument where in the games that I designed, the building, they're my building.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Houdini has been doing simulation, so you could kind of say Massive has been doing simulations all the time. That's a form of at least machine learning, right? So there's a lot of gray area in our industry right now, and it's still to be worked out. But again, my call to action, whether you like AI, don't like AI, and I'm telling this to my students, you need to learn AI. Because if you want to be a working artist, if you just want to be a hobbyist and do your crap at home and do another job, awesome, do it, man. But if you want to be a working professional, you're going to have to learn AI. You're going to have to dig in these. Go ahead, what?
When like music, when people use other artists,
Yeah.
and they learn from there,
Yeah.
you got copywriting there, and you're actually learning something new and building on top of that.
Yeah, it's funny. We've been stealing from other artists for as long as we can imagine. I mean, Picasso said, great artists steal, right? And what he meant by that is not directly rip off other people. It's basically like, that's a cool idea, dude. So I'm going to go home and riff on that idea. And every artist ever has done that, whether you're a dancer, a musician, a fine artist. We have always been inspired by other people's work. What AI has done is they're mashing it together. So I think there's a real difference between a true artist who's using AI and a prompt engineer that's no more than a coder who knows how to put together some good code to get images. And I still think there's a deficit there because they don't know how to make changes the way producers, yeah.
Is there a limit on Adobe Firefly?
My understanding is no, man.
It tracks it, and we have a plan, and I was using it, and then I got freaked out. So do you use this much?
Oh, well, maybe. Dude, are you sleeping? I mean,
No,
no,
I do like you. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
this isn't
yeah, yeah.
working in Midjourney, so I go in and I use that.
So the caterpillar? I was trying to find different hookahs, and it said, F you, dude. We're not letting you do a hookah. And it shot me to Adobe's like usage rights. So there are certain paraphernalia and other things that you are not allowed to do. Like Adobe won't let you do money. Like if you try to generate dollar bills, it won't let you do that, right? So you say money flying in the sky. Adobe's not going to let you do that. Yeah. Yeah, other questions? Yeah.
Do you think that people could actually use AI to make full-length cartoons and movies in the future?
Could you, and let me repeat it for everybody that may not, and let me clarify. Could you use AI to do animation in movies?
Like make full-length movies and shows?
Yes. And I believe the biggest example of where is probably the latest Spider-Man movies. Because you know how in the newest version of the animated Spider-Man, they have this kind of chaotic effect going on in the background? AI still has that. I have yet to see an AI animation output that doesn't have some jitteriness to it. And as a traditional animator, clients are really picky. Does that make sense? I mean, super picky. We all know this, right? I remember working on this. Have you ever guys worked with clients that don't understand your discipline? Raise your hand. Anybody have that experience yet? Yeah, okay. So way back like 90s, I had this cowboy on a horse, and it was a print company that decided to want to do animation. So I was going through and I was using deformation, squash and stretch to make it come to life. And they went through frame by frame and say, what did you do to our character? It's not a model. I go, it's called squash and stretch. It's like a principle of animation, you know. Yeah. No, 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 no. You cannot change our character at all. Like, you're not gonna notice it's like 2 frames, dude. And they're like, no, 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 no. Right? So those clients are super picky. So you think they're gonna be okay with your character morphing and looking completely different from frame to frame to frame? Maybe if you're Disney and you do the Secret Invasion and you go, that's the look and feel we're doing, right? But for most clients, they want their logo, their motto, their character that they've designed to be on point and not be distorted. And I haven't seen any AI do that effectively yet, especially 2D animation, which is really crisp and clean. Yeah, other question?
So how can we as artists ensure that we're using AI ethically when we're working with clients?
Man, that's a really tough question. I think my understanding is, and this is just my understanding, is that Adobe is doing that out of all the ones that I know of. Stable Diffusion, Dolly, Midjourney are all scraping the web. And artists are fighting back. I want you to know that too. And I think we're going to see more of that happening. There is essentially a virus that you can attach to your images called Nightshade. And what happens is if an AI program scrapes your image with Nightshade in it, it jacks with the AI. So what happens is you as an AI user say, I want a cat sitting on a pretty pillow by the window. It pops up a cow because Nightshade messes with the algorithm. Huh? Sort of a cat, yeah. So what's going to happen is if artists fight back like that and say, if you scrape my art, you're messing with your own program. And I could see more of that happening as artists get pissed off. Because, you know, in our culture, what happens when you piss off a lot of artists?
You don't get art.
Not good stuff normally, right? Like we don't have movies for a while, right?
Do you foresee a time that artists can register their images in such a way that they can be tracked rather than having to mess with them?
I do.
And then they would just get a little royalty.
I do. I do. I actually think that that is how this is all going to play out eventually, is that musicians and artists and other people are going to create things with AI, and then they're going to be the creators of our art, and you will have a token like that has like the Bitcoin, you know, type software attached to it that said, this belongs to you, and you can try to go into Photoshop and mess with it, but it doesn't delete its metadata, that doesn't delete that stuff. Of course, we're humans, we'll figure out a way to hack it. But the idea is it protects artists, right? To say, hey, you can use this, but you got to pay me.
Yeah.
And it might be like 5 cents, right? It might be, well, I don't know how much that's going to be, but the idea is that I do believe it. I also believe at some point we're going to have our own digital assistants. Like you're literally going to have an AI that does everything for you. Blessing and a curse, right? They're going to say, hey, Igor, what do I got on my record today? Oh, you have 5 meetings. Okay, cool. Send over all those documents and files and everything to so-and-so. Let me know if I get any feedback. Adjust anything, put those notes in, have the AI robot start working on any changes, and let me know if I need to follow up. Cool. And you go on your day and Igor takes care of all that automatically. But that may be 20, 30 years away, I think.
How much should you pay him?
You're going to pay some service a lot of money for your AI. Yes. And yes.
This is more of a question on animation. Do you have any tips or on anything on people who are wanting to get into traditional animation, 2D animation?
Getting into 2D traditional animation? Yeah, do it, man. Just do it. Here's the thing. When I was starting out, I thought I needed to go somewhere and have somebody do everything, but just doing the work is how you get good. By the way, I know we're wrapping up. If you reach out to on LinkedIn, I am going to be doing some summer classes online on Zoom. I am also thinking about doing some in-person workshops. Hopefully that room will have AC. So stay in touch with me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get it. One of the classes that I'm working on next is networking for introverts. So if you are an introvert and you are looking to learn how to network better at events like this, I'm going to be doing a free online class initially, and then I'm going to do a 2-hour paid where I get nitty-gritty into specific tools, techniques, and other things that can help you network. Right? It's for all neurodivergent folks and their friends. You know, so yeah. So thank you guys very much. Go on out there, get some AC. I really appreciate it.